It's 2026. You have $15,000 to go spend on a car. You could go buy a newer EcoBoost Mustang. You could go buy a Camaro. You could go buy a Challenger. Or you can go buy a 10 to 20-year-old Mustang with a V8. And that's what I'm trying to figure out today. Is buying an S197 Mustang still reasonable in 2026? Because these cars aren't exactly new anymore. I mean, some of them have well over 100,000 miles. A lot of them have been modified. Some of them have absolutely been abused. But at the same time, there is something appealing of buying a V8 manual rear-wheel drive Mustang for the price of a new economy car in 2026. So we're going to talk about the history and a little bit more about the 11 to 14 and how they compare against the Camaros, the Challengers, etc., and if they're actually worth it. What even is an S197? Before we even get into 2026, let's go back to where this all started. The S197 debuted in 2005 and completely changed the direction of the Mustang. The styling was heavily inspired by the 60s model Mustang that they made, but underneath it was actually a modern car. And honestly, I think that's really a part of why these cars aged so well. You get the old Mustang look, but you're not getting the 60s Mustang drivability. You got air conditioning, you got power steering, and everything else. And a platform that millions of people have modified over the years. But there is a big discretion between the early S197s and the ones we're really talking about. The 2005 to 2010 Mustang GTs. The early GTs used Mustang's 4.6 liter 3-valve in the early GTs. And these cars can still be cool, but if I'm spending my money in 2026, that's probably not the first S197 I'm going to be looking for. Because starting in 2011, Ford completely changed the Mustang game. 2011 is really their year you need to remember. Ford brought back the 5-liter, but in a completely different manner. And it wasn't just some nostalgic marketing thing. The 2011 Mustang made 412 horsepower at the flywheel at 6,500 RPMs. That's pretty impressive for 2011. And remember, this is a Mustang that you can buy at a fraction of the price of modern muscle cars. Then suddenly, the Mustang wasn't just the cheap option, it was surprisingly fast. And this is where the 2011 to 2014 Mustangs are the sweet spot for the S197. 2011 to 2014, why these body styles matter. The 2011 and 2012 Mustang GTs were the cheap way to get into an S197, but the 1314s are one that got the pretty facelift. And personally, I think the 1314s are some of the best looking cars on the market still. You got the sharper headlights, you got the facelift, you got the sharper lines, you got the darker taillights, and you still get that classic S197 shape. And then you got the Boss 302. Ford brought back the Boss 302 in 2012 and 2013, but this wasn't just a normal Mustang with a stricter package. The Boss got a serious upgrade over the Coyote. Ford rated it at 444 horsepower and 380 torque at the wheels. Take that for a grain of salt, but naturally aspirated, that's pretty impressive. You got upgraded intake, you got upgraded suspension, you got better oil management, and a whole bunch of track-focused stuff. And this is where the S197 gets really interesting. Because Ford wasn't just building a cheap muscle car. They were building cars that can go around a road course track. And this brings me to one of the biggest reasons I think these cars still work. Why it still works. It's simple. You want a drag car? There's a million ways to build it. Do you want a street car? Easy. Want to build a road course car? There's an aftermarket for that too. Want to boost it? Obviously. Want to be a collector car and leave it mostly stock? Sure, you can do that too. If something breaks, somebody's probably already made a video on how to fix it. If you want to modify something, somebody's probably have already done it. And if you're that kind of person that just likes working on your own cars, these cars are super simple. Okay, but what do they cost in 2026? So this is obviously probably one of the most important parts. How much does one cost in 2026? You can find S197s, the older ones, for well under $15,000. For example, the current market for 2026 puts the S197 around $15,000. That's being kind of generous depending on condition, trim, make, and variant you do get of one of these cars. But that's where you got to be careful because $10,000 S197 is way different from a $20,000 S197. And they can be completely different from mileage, condition, trim model, GT, V6, service history, accidents, all of that matters when going into consideration of buying one of these. Because if you're buying a Coyote, I'd much rather spend $17,000 on a well-maintained one than $11,000 and having to spend $15,000 fixing it. So if you do have $10,000 to $15,000, you can definitely afford one of these S197s, but you're probably cutting it somewhere. Higher mileage, unknown mods, not clean title. There's a lot that can go into it. And I know you're excited to go buy one of these, but this is where I would tell you to slow down a little bit. Don't get excited because you found a $10,500 S197. Figure out why it costs $10,500. Because you can quickly spend another $5,000 fixing somebody else's nightmare. Now, if you do have $15,000 to $20,000, that's speaking more my language, because this is kind of where the sweet spot is for these cars, and it gets more attractive. Because if you're patient, you can really find these cars with low mileage, little to no owners, no accident history, and little modification. See, you're not necessarily getting a perfect car, but you are getting a performance V8 car that's a lot faster than most of these slower performance cars that cost 3 times as much and don't look as good. But what about the competition? If you're spending $15,000, $20,000, why not a Camaro? Why not a Charger? Why not a Challenger? So let's compare them. Mustang versus the quitter, the Camaro. See, at least the Camaro is probably one of the Mustang's biggest competitors. And honestly, I think the Camaro is a really good alternative to a Mustang. The 2010, the 2015 gives you the same kind of effect as sort of. The 5th gens, beautiful, beautiful cars. My favorite, personally. V8, rear-wheel drive, manual, big aftermarket, plenty of power. Here's where I think the Mustang wins. Visibility, practicality, weight, even more aftermarket support, and honestly just how easy these cars are to live with. The Camaro looks badass, but go sit in one. Do one of these right here and tell me what you see, or can't. Then go sit in an S197. For some people, that alone will make the biggest difference. The Mustang versus a yacht. The Challenger. Now, if your priority is comfort and looking good, this will be it. I completely understand the Challenger. They are big cars, but the Mustang just feels like more of a sports car. The Challenger just feels like more of a muscle car, which is good. And pricing on the Challengers can be pretty attractive too. For example, the 2011 Challenger RTs, Kelley Blue Book based, is going around $11,000, give or take. Then you got the pricing of the SRT8s, around $13,000 according to Kelley Blue Book. So if you're mainly shopping around price, the Challenger is definitely attractive. But if you're actually wanting to build something, a road course car, a sports car, literally anything, Mustang beats this every single time. Now, throwing this out there, but what about something Japanese? The 370, the G37, maybe an older WRX, maybe a Genesis Coupe. And all these cars are cool, but that's what's so hard about these cars to beat, is you can't get a combination like this for the price. Obviously, I've said it before, but V8 manual rear-wheel drive, it's impossible. The biggest problem with buying one in 2026, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The age. An S197 is old. There's no getting around that. Even the 2014 model is over a decade old. And that means you're not just buying the Mustang. You're buying the bushings, the shocks, the struts, the suspension components, the engine, the electronics, the safety components. It all wears out over time. And potentially somebody else's modifications and mess. So when you're shopping around, don't spend your entire budget on one of these. If you have $18,000, I'd really be looking for $14,000, $15,000 one to save yourself some money and have maintenance money. It's not, hey, I can afford one. It's, can I afford one? If I were buying an S197 in 2026, which one would I buy? Well, obviously we're focusing on the 11 to 14s, but I'd prioritize a 13 or 14 car. Second, I'd prioritize it being a manual. Third, I'd prioritize condition over mileage, honestly. I don't care nearly as much about a 110,000 mile car versus a 70,000 mile car. For example, 110,000 one can be owned by 2 grandparents that took care of it, maintenance it, and took it to the dealer every 5,000 miles. 70,000 miles, you have Henry over here clutch dumping it off $7,500 off the limiters at Yellow Belly. And fourth, I'd want it to be as close as stock to as possible. Wheels, fine. Exhaust, sure. Suspension, maybe. But if the marketplace says built motor, big single turbo, just needs wired finishing up, I'm walking away. So, is it actually reasonable? So let's answer the question that we started off with. Is buying an S197 in 2026 reasonable? And I think the answer to that is yes. But with one big thing. You need to buy the right one. Because I don't think the S197 is a good buy necessarily because it's cheap. Because I think it's a good buy for what you get for the money. After everything I said, I'm going to say it one more time. A V8 rear-wheel drive manual car, and a massive community behind it too, and a platform that's proven itself for over 2 decades. And you compare that to what gets you for $15,000 to $20,000 in other performance cars, I think the S187 starts looking pretty damn good. What are my final thoughts? Honestly, as time goes on, I think we're going to look back on these cars completely different, because I think the 2011 to 2014 Mustang GTs are going to be one of the last cars we can modify, work on ourselves, have a good outreach, supporting mods and community without needing a 6-figure job. Now, the new Mustang is faster, more technologically advanced, more refined. Like, there's no argument there. But that's not really what the S197 is about. The S197 is about having a V8 Mustang, throwing some wheels, some tires on it, doing your own maintenance, making some questionable decisions, and having a ridiculously amount of fun for little cost. I still think that's a pretty good damn deal. So if you're looking at buying one right now, don't ask yourself, can I afford the Mustang? Ask yourself, can I afford the Mustang after buying it? Because there's a difference between buying an S197 and buying somebody else's problem. And if you're shopping for one right now, let me know what you think in the comments, or which one you're looking at. Year, mileage, price, whether it be an automatic, a manual. I'd actually be curious to see what S197s are going for around the country. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, because I don't think we're done playing with these cars.